and I don't care. I need a puppy. And so I'm happy with it, Angela. And by the way, if they want to take a dog that's not happy at the White House and send him to another place, they don't need to cover for it. Why should Major Biden have to be in a place he doesn't want to be? I don't know. Now, there were other critiques of this. Bedford Falls High-Speed Rail says, "Where is the cat, old man?" I guess apparently they had said that they were going to get a cat, and then they just decided not to. They just got yet another German Shepherd. Well, look, you can't help who you love, human or dog. Carolyn Riley says, maybe Commander can cancel student debt before he's neutered because you clearly don't have the balls to do it, Joe. Damn. Okay, I respect it. I think we should focus a little bit on the dog here, but I agree student loan debt should be canceled. And Max Rosenthal had a very specific attack. Joe Biden, give your dog a non-fascist name challenge 2022. That's a good point. Okay, naming your dogs Major and Commander and stuff is needlessly aggressive, I suppose. I don't know. I almost named my dog Boomer. Is that too aggressive? Does that call to mind mortars or something? Anyway, look, if you want to have a problem with Joe Biden and the family naming a commander, okay. But don't attack the dog. He didn't get to choose his name, and animals are innocent. Okay, with that said, everyone, that's gonna be it for me for right now. I'm about to go interview Charles Booker, so that'll be going up on the channel soon. Everyone, I want you to tune in and show a ton of support to Jared Jackson, who's gonna be filling in tomorrow with David Schuster, and Francesca Fiorentini, who's gonna be filling in on Thursday with Brett Ehrlich. Show them a ton of love, make them feel welcome. I'm sure you will. I will be back on Monday after the holidays, and in the interim, I hope that you have the best holidays imaginable. No, we're not here on Monday. We're not. We have Monday off. That's all. Are we here on Tuesday? I'll be here on Tuesday, everybody, and I will see you then. I hope that you have great holidays. So until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. Good to be with you. We got a lot of show today. My contributor today breaking down news of the day, none other than attorney at law, Adrienne Lawrence, author and TYT contributor. Also, Young Voices contributor, Mr. Kenneth Schrupp, is back talking about student loans and the Biden administration. Should be an interesting debate. All right, top story of the day. Paramedics likely caused the death of a man in cardiac arrest because they said they could not go inside of the facility because of some unknown COVID-19 law that restricted them. It doesn't exist. Here's some of the video.
Wow. Let's see what's happening. Where is he?
Now you see paramedics waiting outside. They're saying they cannot go in because of some unknown COVID-19 law. The police officer then goes inside. There's more. Here it is.
They're not going to come in. They're saying it's a state law that they can't come in.
It's a cardiac arrest. He's completely out. We're doing compression. We cannot move him while we're doing compression. Oh my God. God have mercy. No. Come on. Probably about 25 minutes because they talk right
About 25 minutes.
Question number 2, does he have a DNR or is he a full code?
He's full code.
Okay, he doesn't have a pulse? That looks like a pulse form to me.
Full code.
Look at that real quick, Mark. Okay.
He had a pulse at that time, but he did later lose it. Here's the rest of the video.
Who's on the left? I was getting ready to do his ID, but I hadn't run in yet.
All right, no advance directive. Last seen, what, 20 minutes ago?
Yes.
Is the shift change right now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're just not Come on.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and review. How long have you been doing compression here? About 10 minutes? Okay. So 10 minutes of compression.
Remember you were with us?
Yeah.
When that lady
Right after the work, we went in there, not going like that.
All right, John. What do you got, sir? So, last seen like 15, 20 minutes ago, they're doing 10 minutes
You did a great
compression. And you said he's a full code?
It's exhausting, but you did a good job.
We're gonna get the auto pull set up on our video.
You have no bag?
You guys got paperwork? By any chance? The rest of it?
and let me get the
You wanna switch out, Pearl?
No, we can pass my bag. We don't have anybody.
Hey, can you hand me a sheet?
The man was in cardiac arrest on a bed that did not have wheels. The paramedics refused to go in and retrieve the man, and he later died. An investigation is now underway for 2 paramedics in Southern California. Paramedics are under investigation after they refused to enter a post-acute care facility last month to assist a man in cardiac arrest, citing an unspecified COVID-19 law. The bizarre incident took place on Thursday, November 11th, when 2 Rialto fire responders answered a 911 call from the post-acute care center around 7:50 p.m. In police body camera footage obtained by Fox Los Angeles, the 2 medics, whose names have not been revealed, were spotted standing by the door, the open door of the center, wearing masks, but refusing to enter the building. Let's put up a picture of these 2 supposed paramedics outside of the facility while a patient dies from cardiac arrest. As part of the department's policy, the first 30 seconds of the footage were muted. Still, in the unnamed officer's police report, they're hiding everybody here, the paramedics were reportedly there for an unrelated patient and said apparently the facility was being problematic. After a few moments, an unknown employee of the location yelled to the fire personnel, "Please come help. He's having a cardiac arrest," the report stated. Fire personnel responded by assisting the patient, had to be brought outside the facility before they could provide any sort of treatment due to an unspecified COVID-19 law. Soon afterward, the officer, as you saw in the video, walks himself inside and greets the employee, informing them that the paramedics are not going to come in. He added, they're saying it's a state law that they cannot come in. Nurses were already attempting life-saving procedures inside the room, including CPR on the patient, who later was identified as 56-year-old Joseph Angelo. The bed he was in did not have wheels on it. So, with the nurse still on top of Mr. Angelo, the officer got behind the bed and steered the bed down the hallways with the help of hospital personnel. Hell of a scene. Once they got through the door, the two paramedics took over the CPR. Angelo was transported to a local hospital. He died. He did not survive. Too much time had passed. Authorities were baffled by the incident. You don't say. They were baffled by this incident. It is difficult to watch the tape, said the Mayor Pro Tem Ed Scott, who was made aware of the incident by a staff member at the center and reported it to the city attorney. He said, and I quote, "It is particularly difficult," talking about to watch. In a statement to the news station, the San Bernardino County chapter of the Emergency Medical Services Authority said, and I quote, "Upon acceptance of a call assignment, California paramedics cannot refuse service, assessment, treatment, transport, unless directed by law enforcement, which did not happen, or the scene is unsafe." Nothing unsafe about that scene. "Local protocols may change instructions for the conditions to assess, treat, and/or transport." None of that took place. The paramedics have now been placed on administrative leave pending a third-party investigation. Talk about wrongful death lawsuit. That's why we have an attorney on the show today to give us more insight. Adrienne, what do you see here?
Well, I see two individuals who likely just did not want to do their job. I don't know if it was for reasons that were petty or if there was actually something legitimate going on, but I do not see it here from these facts as we know them to be right now. And I really do hope that the city attorney, as well as others involved, hold those paramedics accountable. They took an oath to ensure that individuals got the necessary help that they did, and yet they sat there and watched that individual die essentially for no good reason. And so I really hope there's more going on in the story, but in the event that there's not, I damn sure hope that there is accountability coming down the pike for these two individuals.
Yeah, and just think about this, Adrienne. That takes a total lack of humanity. First of all, you do have a duty. There's a duty here to actually care. So you have a duty to care. I don't have that duty. I'm not a paramedic, but you have a duty to care. The police officer, if there's a law somewhere, the police officer would likely be aware of the law. Somebody on staff would be aware of the law at the facility. Somebody who's a director would be aware of the law. The medical services organization will be aware of the law. Nobody is aware of what law they're talking about. The law doesn't exist. I've researched it. It does not exist. Whatever they were doing was contrary to the legal standard and the policy practice. Because of those elements, is this, in your opinion, a good case for the family to file wrongful death against the paramedics and that particular organization?
Well, it would It would definitely be a solid lawsuit if the individual was, who were supposed to be responding to these calls were just basic civilians, but by virtue of the fact that they are government state employees, it could be blocked in some manner unless there is a workaround. But I definitely think that no matter what, that there needs to be something in place that will hold these individuals accountable. Because as we know, when it comes to the law, that police officers do not necessarily have to render care and aid if they approach a situation, but it should. And I'd like to hope that it is indeed different for paramedics, because if you didn't want to do your job, you should not have answered the call. Allow someone else to, because you just allowed that person to die. And there should be accountability. And I hate the thought that it's going to fall on California taxpayers, but something needs to be done here.
Yeah, very well said. Let me shift gears to what seems to be a disturbing trend. I don't know why school teachers and some school administrators still engage in things like this. School librarian made third graders reenact the Holocaust, already starting bad, okay? Third graders from Washington, D.C. elementary school were forced to reenact the Holocaust by their librarian, all right? Watkins Elementary School staff member told third graders at this institution in library class to reenact scenes from the Holocaust, directing them to dig their classmates' mass graves. Remember, we're talking about third graders, and simulate shooting the victims. According to an email from the school's principal, the instructor has now been placed on leave, all right? So students were supposed to be working on a research project that would result in a class presentation. But the school official who engaged in this direction or instruction instead used the class time to have students reenact events at the Holocaust, okay? There's more. One student who is actually Jewish, all right, reportedly Jewish, was instructed to play the role of who? Of course, Adolf Hitler. Yeah, obviously makes perfect sense to the instructor. Was told to play the role Adolf Hitler and told to pretend to commit suicide at the end of the lesson. Remember, third graders. According to a parent who spoke to the Post, some students were given the role of genocidal Nazis, digging graves for classmates. This includes the trains dying in gas chambers, playing Hitler, and mass graves, one parent told Station Fox 5 DC. The instructor, it gets deeper. The instructor allegedly made anti-Semitic comments during the reenactment. The parent said that when children asked why the Germans did this, the staff member then said, because the Jews ruined Christmas. The incident was reported to DC Public Schools, Comprehensive Alternative Resolution and Equity Team. The staff member is now on leave pending a school investigation, all right? Now, who is the staff member? Let me dig here, all right? Principal M. Scott Berkowitz, who did not immediately respond to a message late Sunday, did not release the staff librarian's name in his email, all right? This is standard practice for these individuals. A spokesman for the District of Columbia Public Schools also did not confirm the name. But guess who did? Parents, including one whose child was in the class, identified the woman as Kimberlyn Jerkowski, who, according to her LinkedIn profile, has been a library specialist with the school district since 2014. All right, let's put up a picture of the librarian who did this ridiculous instruction. Okay. Now, there's more background here that's systemic to the institution. Now, obviously, they're going to put it all on her. She bears the blame naturally for the instruction. But I have another question, and you will see why I have a question. Jerkowski was actually fired from a job as a school librarian in 2013. Why? After being convicted of fraud in a $24,000 tutoring scam. In 2017, she was stripped of her New Jersey teaching license for a period of 3 years due to that conviction. She was also charged with animal cruelty in 2019 after allegedly keeping 5 dogs outdoors in freezing temperatures, leading to the death of one. Jerkowski has been with the district since 2014, according to a LinkedIn file. What? Okay, Watkins Elementary released a statement because they got some answering to do here. The whole damn institution, all right? They said, and I quote, students should never be tasked with acting out any atrocity, especially genocide and war. Additionally, there were allegations of a staff member using hate speech during the lesson, which is unacceptable and not tolerated at any of our schools. The city's public schools agency said in a statement to Fox 5, this was not an approved lesson plan, and we sincerely apologize to our students and families who were subjected to this incident, the school said. Now, okay, fine, that's for Ms. Jerkowski. Now I have a question for the school. Why was she there? Why was she there? That's your protocol. That's your lack of vetting. That's you, the school system. Now you can make a statement about Ms. Jerkowski and it's appropriate, but what about the fault that you bear for hiring an individual with a conviction fraud, a suspended license to teach, and other criminal elements that show maybe this isn't the right person to be around children? Okay, attorney, what are your thoughts on this one?
I couldn't agree with you more. The fact that they allowed that woman in, essentially in the arena to lead and guide children, it's shameworthy, if not like suable as far as I'm concerned. This is disgusting. The amount of trauma those kids are going to experience by virtue of the fact that you had a Jewish student forced to be Hitler in some sick reenactment. The fact is our society does not fully appreciate essentially the weight of anti-Semitism, the amount of damage it does, as well as reenactment or even calls to the Holocaust. We're seeing that now as we see a bunch of right wingers wear yellow stars and say this feels like I'm in a concentration camp and whatnot, simply because they have to wear masks. And so, it's like a lot of people need education out there. The fact is that Jews are only 2% of the US population. And one of the biggest reports that recently came out from the American Jewish Committee found that 1 in 4 American Jews have felt that they've been the target of anti-Semitism over the last year, and it is on the rise. The thing is, we don't need hate in our schools, and we damn sure don't need it coming from teachers.
Yeah, and let me already say this for the crew when we post this on social media and YouTube and other places saying, oh, Doc is talking against black women. I don't give a damn what color she is. If she's against children, she becomes my business, and I could care less about her color, her gender, or anything else. So I say that for the record. All right, now, Jamal Bowman telling the truth, okay, he's in trouble for telling the truth, blames the lack of black support for Biden on Biden's inability to deliver for black people. Damn right, absolutely correct. Okay, let's put up a picture of Representative Jamal Bowman out of New York. That brother tells the truth. He has blamed President Joe Biden's lack of action on police reform for Biden's tumbling numbers among African Americans. I agree. I don't think it's only police reform. That's the only deviation here with me and Mr. Bowman. But I do think a large part of it is, and the whole part is delivery in total. You campaigned on a particular platform and you did not deliver. As the president loses support, this is real. This is a reality. This is happening right now. As the president loses support in the African American community, it's important for the president to be in strategic planning sessions with both legacy and contemporary civil rights and the CBC and activists, so that we can get something done in the black community that the black community has been fighting for and demanding and dying for many years. Which is not just voting rights, but police reform. That is what Representative Bowman said. That is accurate, that is true, okay? After Chauvin, the killer, was convicted in April. I want to remind you of this. Joe Biden said he pledged to Mr. Floyd's family that Congress would pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. We talk about it a lot on the show. But negotiations between Senator Cory Booker, a Democrat, and Senator Tim Scott, a ridiculous person, as well as Representative Karen Bass of California, failed and police reform has essentially fallen by the wayside since then. Remember what President Biden said in that famous speech? He said, and I quote, "And especially for those moments when this campaign was at its lowest. The African American community stood up for me. They always have my back, and I'll always have yours." Joe, I want you to succeed, because if your agenda you campaigned on succeeds, my community succeeds, the American progress happens, communities across the country win. If you win, Joe, we win. And I'm talking about the agenda you campaigned on. However, if you compromise, we lose. There's a cause and effect relationship with politics. It's organic. If you don't deliver for the people that put you in office, they will not put you in office again. They will not support those that you support. We did not vote for a personality. Let's be clear. Nobody was excited to vote for Joe Biden. If you tell me you were excited to vote for Joe Biden, you're a damn lie. You were excited to vote against the policy and the wrecking ball of Donald Trump. And you voted in a policy, not a person. And that policy has not been delivered. So yes, the representative is 100% correct. And it should serve as a warning and also a reflection to the political leaders on the left. Deliver or be transferred. Adrienne, thoughts?
You definitely hit the nail on the head there. The fact is that I don't think any of us were particularly excited to put forward Joe Biden, but the fact is that he made promises to us and they're not being fulfilled. And I think Bowman is correct in terms of police reform, but I think the problem is that a lot of members of the Black community do not necessarily believe the system can be reformed, because in actuality, the system is operating as it is expected and was created to operate. I think his numbers in terms of Biden, his numbers have gone down in part because, hey, he didn't get rid of college debt. He could have done something about that. The fact is that the vast majority of Black students and Black people who went to college are suffering from extreme debt. And the fact is that it continues to enhance the racial wealth gap. And we're seeing that the fact that getting education does not close any kind of racial disparities that are happening in society. So again, it's us Black people being sold a false bill of goods. And then he had the opportunity, Biden, to maybe address cannabis and the fact that it's still what, a class 1, Schedule A, whatever drug in the federal government, despite the fact that it has racist origins. And you can't tell me it's exactly as potent and as powerful and as detrimental as heroin, yet it's up there logged with it. And the fact is that Black people have suffered the most when it comes to incarceration because of it. Yet we see a lot of white people making money off of it now, and Biden had an opportunity to do something, and instead he chuckled and really sat on that old school mentality of reefer madness. So the fact is that Joe Biden hasn't held up any of the ends that would support the people that he claims he's so grateful for their support. So what does he expect?
Yeah, and he still has moves on the table. So I know some people will try to moralize against me and say, well, Joe Biden, the president, is doing the best he can. He has obstructionists in the party. He has to deal with Joe Manchin, Sinema, and others. Let's be real. Through executive action, he can defund federal dollars. He can defund police departments that do not serve the agenda of the American progress we're talking about. He can do that with an actual executive order. He doesn't need a law. He controls that element of federal funding. He can also override the parliamentarian about this. This won't be allowed because it's not germane to the rules of the filibuster. The vice president is president of the Senate and can override that. Also, he can instruct Schumer to take Manchin and anybody else who stands with him, take these people off of committees and dry up their influence. Is it bold? Yes. Is it radical? You're damn right. But that's exactly the game that the other side is playing. We're in a baseball game with golf clubs. That's what we're doing. And we're losing. We're losing. And anytime people like Manchin wins, the community loses, Joe Biden. I know you like the guy, and I know he's your friend. But we didn't vote you there to get along with Manchin. We voted you there to stand up for us. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
While the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it. We became the first ever daily online web television show.
No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award. Best web host. We passed 1 billion views.
Voice Award winner, News and Information Channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse?
Yeah!
For those of you watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door.
The haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes.
Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against Pelosi.
I told you we were coming.
You talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock.
And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country.
November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
Back to back that I like.
Say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
All right, welcome back to Indisputable. Good to be with you. We have a lot of show left. Let me remind everyone of a few items, okay? TYT gifting, big deal, all right? Still looking for a gift, worried about if it would show up on time. Guess what? We can make it happen right now. It's called TYT Magic. Give a gift that you don't have to ship by buying them a TYT membership. Check it out, tyt.com/gift, all right? Also, gear up for winter with Shop TYT. Take 30% off of all winter gear right now. Don't miss out on an indisputable favorite. the anti-Karen Avenger style hoodie, shoptyt.com. They're really dope, by the way. All right. Colorado Blue Blazer says, apparently these paramedics took the oath, first do harm. Yeah. Mickey C, the Silver-Haired Dragon, whatever argument those paramedics had with the staff, it should have taken second place to the man's life. That was first and foremost, above all else. Totally inhumane of anyone, never mind paramedics. Yeah, and I think there's something more to this story, like Adrienne said. I think there was maybe an argument, maybe someone said you have to wear your mask to come in, something, there's something else here because they said, oh, the staff was being problematic, okay? There's something else here. Next TYT report has said, I studied to be a paramedic. You have a duty to act, that's correct. You have a duty to act as a paramedic, which is a legal duty in most states, not all, but most. You have a duty to act when in uniform. These guys should be held accountable. Agreed 100%. Lynn said maybe the next reenactment, the students can role play of the firing of the librarian. I mean, that was just ridiculous. Dragonheart, I hope you and Adrienne a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Dragonheart, same to you. Thank you for that. Hiram Bifidum, Social Security Administration has been refusing to cash a paycheck for about 2 years. Their excuse is COVID precautions. I'm sorry about that. I really hope that gets reconciled quickly. Let me go to Twitch. Phoenix 32778. I was an Army medic for 8 years, and every single time people needed help, I helped. Just that simple, right? All right. Ellinger 88. Good news is he has our back. Bad news is he's putting a dagger in it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Play wherever you're staying.
Wait, so we can't.
Which townhouse in here are you visiting?
What's wrong with that, though?
What?
I said, what's wrong with that? Just playing around the neighborhood.
You know what? How do I know that you are not picking on that kid in this bike?
He's not picking on him.
Do I know that? Just please go back to wherever you're coming from. And you put your phone away.
Karen, you know he's not picking on the white kid that you are supposedly trying to protect because the white kid said he's not picking on me. But really, why did you assume that? Remember when I said that when someone approaches a person of color and says, validate why you should be here. Show me your ID, tell me where you live, what's your address? That's the equivalent of saying, show me your freedom papers because you don't have mobility here, you don't have freedom here. I revoke your freedom unless you have freedom papers, unless you produce what I'm telling you to produce, information, a document, an ID. It's routine now. And this kid, this poor kid, who's extremely respectful, who's engaging in an appropriate way, but also very confused about why this is happening. And you know what's going to happen later? This kid has to go to his parents and say, here's what happened to me. And his parents will have to explain why. Because I guarantee you, he doesn't get it right then at that moment. Adrienne, what are your thoughts?
No, you're totally right. And I would have been one of those kids. The fact is that woman did not like the presence of that little black boy playing in the neighborhood with that white boy. And this is the stuff that MLK had talked about, 60, 70 years ago? The fact that there are people who do not even want us playing or interacting together. And she wanted that little young black boy to be out of her neighborhood. And so, as you have noted, she essentially demanded his freedom papers to try to give him grief about why he was physically present and having a good time. And then she also insinuated that he was presenting somewhat of a threat to the little white boy. This thought that we're inherently dangerous or violent in some way. And it's like, if she could have pulled out any more racial, ideologies or tropes, she would have. And I just really hope that someone in that neighborhood has stood up to that woman because she doesn't deserve to be there.
Well, a big reason, obviously, why we highlight these Karens is because it is a great reflection of not only their behavior, but of society. And hopefully, when you see yourself in the mirror, you autocorrect. All right, you start correcting some things. Okay, got something for you. Double dose.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
My
my girl here wants me to come out of the elevator so she can come out of the elevator.
Because it's a small space, we're supposed to maintain social distancing. I don't understand why you can't just politely step out to allow me out of the elevator when I asked you nicely while you have been wearing your mask.
You didn't ask me nicely. You said get the out the elevator.
I said that after you refused
No.
to get out. You have a giant ball.
My girl.
No, look at you.
But my girl, hold on. My girl, you want to stand in the elevator with me and catch it? Like, you're not making sense, honey. You might as well get off at your floor.
I'm trying to get off at my floor. I can't come close to you. Do you not understand that I have an extremely compromised immune system? You are a delivery person incorrectly wearing the mask inside of a big building.
Is this incorrectly worn, guys? Is this incorrectly worn?
It wasn't like that the whole time.
Oh, sorry. This is when your inside voice becomes a person. I know everyone has panicked around an individual in an elevator before, especially during COVID. All right. I've been on elevators and I've looked across the elevator and I said, that person definitely has COVID. Okay. I've done that. Inside voice, I didn't say it out loud. I'm safe. This person allowed all of the inside voice to come out. Now, there's a part of me that actually understands, except for naturally the hysteria and the violence, because if you're that cautious about staying away from somebody, you typically don't attack them, right? Adrienne, thoughts?
Yeah, this thought that number one, she couldn't just walk out of the elevator, but also the hysterics and her thought of what being so, I don't know if that's white fragility or just so threatened or fearful in some way. It doesn't compute. What is wrong with people? Like, this is how you're gonna invest your time? Nobody got time for this. And I cannot wait for the excuses after this goes viral. Because, I don't know if she's gonna blame it on Ambien or, all sorts of nonsense, but nobody got time for it. Oh, man.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, and that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter Dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine Dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then, by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is, You take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's plant your change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
All right, welcome back. Let me read some of these amazing comments. I'm so thankful to every single one of you. Let me take time to say this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because you all have made indisputable what it is, all right? You come here, you're live with me. Many of you share the content and you engage this show. We just thank you for your support. So from me and the team at Indisputable, we say thank you, all right? Okay. TYT member Lynn says, love the Ignite t-shirt Karen is wearing. She's igniting the flames of racism. Yeah. Lynn also says that Karen is a poster child for white fragility. I mean, that, yeah. Just Be Anti-Racist says, whatever drug makes white girl Karen, whatever drug makes white girl Karen took, she better not touch that stuff again. I don't know. She may just be high on life, man. David Thiel, I've been leaving reviews on the Exotics at Aquatics store via Yelp and Facebook. They're getting real sick of me, LOL. Thank you, and I'm happy to say, when I did that update on the story about that store and the owner who decided to assault that black woman was found not guilty, even though we got clear video evidence, was found not guilty. It was dismissed by a judge in that local town. We did the update. We raised a bunch of money for her to fight this civilly. The last time I checked, right after we did the show, I think we had raised 10 grand, okay? I haven't checked it lately, I'm sure it's higher than that now. And we got, combined, we got over 1.5 million views from the segment, all right? And that's still growing, and that's because of you. All right, Mike Boy Raps, should have Solange'd her ass. No, we do not condone violence here. Okay? All right. That is funny though. Yes. Right. Coffee with VI, Coffee with Vi. Breaks my heart to see this happen to anyone, but so much more when it's a kid. This cannot continue, correct? Yeah. All right. I'm going to show you a video of a child being restrained and punched in the head, a young black child at a school in Howard County. This is Maryland. Here's the video. The local NAACP, they are asking for these high school employees to be fired. I'm asking for at least one of them to be arrested. Let me give you some background to what you just saw, okay? Howard County Public Schools said the student, whose name we were not released, reportedly assaulted multiple of the students on Thursday, December 2nd in the cafeteria, and that the Howard County Public Schools security guard and a school administrator intervened and helped the school student resource officer subdue the student. The 3 staff members who were featured in the clip you just saw. The student, who is black, was later disciplined. The security assistant, a former police officer, has been placed on paid leave. However, the NAACP says the school employees should be charged. Howard County Black Community Aging Council and African American Community Roundtable have also called for the employees to be terminated. Barbara Pert of the Council on Aging said incidents like this are not foreign and says there's no room to question the students' behavior in a statement to US Time Today. In addition, the organization is also asking that the superintendent review their training procedure and hiring practices, etc. Let's put up a picture of the superintendent. This is Dr. Michael Maritorano, and he's in charge. Now, let me be very clear about what happened. Fights happen in schools. They happen. I've gotten in fights. I've seen fights. Fights happen. When you subdue a child because they're in a physical altercation, you don't punch a child in the head. You know what? You don't even do that to an adult who's subdued. Even cops who punch individuals in the head are typically disciplined when it's an adult. That's called a red zone in law enforcement. Red zone means when you strike that zone, and this is a real thing, look it up. Red zone means when you strike a person in that zone and the head is a red zone, they could potentially die. And you have to know as a law enforcement official, if you do strike a person in a red zone, that it needs to be appropriate force given the situation. 3 grown ass men on top of a child does not warrant a red zone strike that could lead in permanent damage or death. Adrienne, thoughts?
You know what? It just really speaks to the fact that young black lives do not matter whatsoever. The fact that they're willing to punch this child in the head and essentially look the other way. The fact that these individuals are on paid leave as opposed to in handcuffs. Right. It really speaks volumes, and it's really problematic for this school because not only do they need to change their policies and procedures, but they actually need to take a stand on this matter and hold those adults accountable for their behavior, because it really is sending the signal to the other students there that their lives are not valuable, that their health and safety is not valuable, that they are not children. And it's problematic, and it's very scary.
Yeah, and I know there's been this big boogeyman created saying critical race theory is hurting our children. You know what I think? First of all, we know critical race theory is not taught in K through 12 education. I have another point of view on this now. I think the problem is that we don't teach critical race theory. I think that's the problem, actually. I think we need to start teaching critical race theory. If not to students early, at least to administration and faculty. Because when they fail to acknowledge, they fail to change. You can't change what you refuse to acknowledge. And we see these elements of systemic racism, bias in the application of rules, the criminalization of our young black bodies inside of school systems. And then they get to stand back, Adrienne, and say, oh no, this was fitting to the circumstance. No, it wasn't. You would not have treated another student in that manner. All right, we got more. I told you this would happen. I said it. I said because Republicans do not have policies, they pick people. They pick villains and they pick heroes. They tell you Dr. Fauci is a villain. They tell you Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero. And I told you they were going to ride this Kyle Rittenhouse wave all the way to the midterm elections. I said that right here on Indisputable. Guess what? is happening. He's getting paid big bucks to be a rock star now. And I want you to see how excited these people are that Kyle Rittenhouse is gracing them with his presence. And the only thing he has done special to them is kill 2 white people who supported black people and got away with it. That is what makes him special to this crew. Here's a video. They gave him his own theme music. This was at a Turning Point USA conference, of course. They had a complete tribute video, his own theme music. Literally somebody wrote a song and made it his theme music. Not everyone was happy. Now, remember, Kyle Rittenhouse said during an interview that he actually supports Black Lives Matter. He's lying, but he said it. Remember when he said, oh, I support Black Lives Matter, okay? After he killed 2 individuals who were down with the cause, right? He said it. Here's what happened when a conservative commentator or reporter tried to get the information out of him.
Excuse me, Mr. Rittenhouse, can you tell me why you support BLM? JD, hey buddy. Yeah, how's it going, man? I'm not a threat. Hey, Mr. Rittenhouse, can you tell me why you support BLM? Yeah, he said he does. Mr. Rittenhouse, you said you support. I'm not. Why are you pushing me? I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to be here.
Not allowed to have
I am allowed to be here. Hey, Mr. Rittenhouse, why do you support BLM?
Keep pushing me. We're gonna have
you were pushing me, bro.
Hey, we're revoking that.
Okay.
That means you're a criminal trespass from the property.
Okay. You need to give me time to leave before you rip it off.
You need to speak to
Where do you need him? I could leave.
Where do you need him? He's been revoked. We're a criminal trespass removed.
I just had it removed to give me the opportunity to leave.
Let me point out the irony of all of this. That's a right wing, that's a conservative reporter, okay? If you want to call him that. The only thing he's upset about is that Kyle Rittenhouse said he supports Black Lives Matter, which by the way is a lie. But that's what he's upset about. That's what really just boils his blood. He's not upset about anything else in reference to Kyle Rittenhouse. Just that Kyle Rittenhouse uttered the false statement that he, in fact, supports Black Lives Matter. Adrienne, thoughts?
I think what we're seeing here in terms of Kyle Rittenhouse is really just a reflection of our society and our country. And his claim to support Black Lives Matter or his claim to not be racist, this is just his way of essentially trying to keep up that new racism veil of purporting to be neutral, purporting not to be racist when their actions really belie the point. And it was just pretty disgusting to watch that event where Kyle Rittenhouse is being celebrated as though he is a celebrity when he murdered 2 men. The fact that the Wisconsin state law wasn't there to necessarily support a finding of guilt doesn't mean that what he did was right or that he should be celebrated in any regard.
Yeah, very well said. All right, I got a question for everybody. What in the red state hell?
You can take a gun, shoot somebody in the face. It's not hard. Sometimes it might even be fun if they're a godless commie.
Now, what they're trying to do is sneak the COVID vaccine in your salads.
I hate math. Somebody say amen.
You got it.
Central Chevrolet Service this autumn.
Autumn,
didn't ask for a female. I would like to talk to a male. My opinion is females don't belong in the service department. They belong behind the scenes doing the paperwork.
Okay. There's not a male in our service department.
Then you can let me talk to Mike Ashford or somebody.
Okay, hang on 1 second. I'll get you over to Mike Ashford. Chevrolet service this autumn.
I need to make an appointment for Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. I just hope there are no females on the desk when I get there.
There will be some. There's no males in our service department, ma'am. So unfortunately.
Oh my God. That is totally messed up. All right, I need my oil changed, but there better be a male mechanic that I can talk to.
We don't have any appointments on Saturday anyway. Tyler said to transfer her to him. Hello.
Okay, I'm gonna get you with my sales manager since there's no males in service, but there's a male in sales, so I guess you can talk to sales.
It sounds like OG Karen just needs a man. Okay, I think she's just trying to say, hey, I need to talk to a man somewhere, and some kind of experience here. They're trying to be as accommodating as possible. I don't know why they were this accommodating, whatever, okay? But there's more video, here it is.
As long as there is a male in the shop to change my oil, that will be fine. I do not want a female working on my car, and I'll tell you why. The last time I had it out there to have something done, it was a 5-minute job. I sat there a freaking hour, and I had to go track down a male to get my car.
The last time you were
here, the females were incompetent to pay to me.
The last time you were here at Central?
Yes.
What were they doing to your vehicle?
I had my plastic jack taken out of my car. And it was a 5-minute fix.
Okay, let me get you to Tyler Seegers, the sales manager.
Karen would have got that dial tone. Adrienne, I'm going to let you opine on this one, seeing that you are actually a woman that she would not like to talk to.
Oh no, she would not like to talk to me at all. You know, it's so disappointing because there are a lot of women out there who are just like this. They happen to think that other women are incompetent in some way, or that women as a gender. And it's just so interesting to me because nobody, approaches like a lion and is like, oh, I don't care about this lion, no big deal because it's a female lion. It's like only humans do that. It's really pathetic, and there's no way in hell I would have entertained it in the workplace because, hey, that's just gender discrimination. So that's why I would have told that woman and say, you know what, you need to take your business elsewhere because we don't discriminate in my establishment. Bye.
That's well said. I love that analogy you just made. I'm going to use that. I give you credit for it, though. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your great work.
Well, they can get more information on me by checking out my Twitter feed at Adrienne Law. And I'm on Instagram at Adrienne Lawrence. You can check me out on Rebel HQ on my segments TYT Overruled. And also check out my book in the TYT shop. That's right overhead here. Staying in the Game, the playbook for beating workplace sexual harassment. It'll teach you how to essentially stay on top in the workplace if you have a progressive mindset. Because as we know, sexual harassment, just like racism, it's all about keeping these old school mentalities. Yep. So if you are progressive in any way, you need to be prepared no matter what your gender is.
Thank you so much. Always a great job on Indisputable. We appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
Nearly half of Americans are working in low-wage jobs that pay the median annual wages of $18,000.
If these corporations actually paid people what they need to live so that they're not being subsidized by the government, then the government wouldn't have to subsidize it.
Your taxpayer dollars are going to sustain this $7.25 minimum wage. You are paying to get paid minimum wage. And if you're not making minimum wage, you're paying for other people to get paid minimum wage.
Wages have not gone up in 40 years. adjusted for inflation, 40 years. Meanwhile, by the way, productivity is sky high. Do you know that if your wages kept up with productivity, how hard you're working, in other words, the minimum wage right now would be over $20 an hour. Corporations buy off politicians and use their corporate power to make sure you get paid less and they make more profit. That's how this scam is played. Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT Lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown, but today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
The concept of the Young Turks means the audience, they are the Young Turks. They are the go-getters. They are the ones making the emphatic change happen in their local community. The reality is that we've always, young and the not so young, we've always cared about news. But when you do not see the messengers of the news look like you, when they do not share your experiences, exposures, and environment, and there's a disconnect between you and the news. I lecture in mass communications. One thing I tell all of my students, there is no such thing as non-biased news. It never has been. Non-biased news has always been an illusion. Let's go back to the 60s and 70s, where people would say that was the purity of non-biased news. News has a segment. That segment has a time. That time, you must do your story and be finished. That means the producer, the writer, the orator has to take out what they don't think is important and only leave in what they believe is important. They have a limited time to tell the story. They do not have time to tell everybody's version or everybody's side. And they get to choose the facts that they bring to you, as well as the nuance, which really is a word for opinion, that they bring to you, the context they bring to you. So we've always had a level of bias in news. Here's the issue. The issue is to not deceive individuals as if you don't have some level of opinion with your news commentary. And that's what TYT has never done. They've always been authentic in their approach to progressive ideology and their news analysis and political breakdown. And I think that's how you actually win the heart and soul of individuals who are consuming information from you, because now they see themselves in you. All right, welcome back. We got a lot of show. Let me remind everyone, TYT gifting, if you're still looking for a gift and you want to make sure your gift gets there before Christmas Day, you can get it right now. You can get it today. TYT.com/gift. If you get the gift of membership, get a TYT membership now, all right? Also, gear up for the winter with Shop TYT. Take 30% off of all winter gear now. Don't miss out on an indisputable favorite, the anti-Karen Avenger style hoodie at shoptyt.com. Be an anti-Karen. Antica unite. All right. Let me read some of these comments. A lot of great ones. We'll read as many as I can. Just be anti-racist. Dr. Richard, when Kendrick was in 3rd grade, the assistant principal and the school officer did the same thing to him. 2 grown men tackled my child onto the floor, laid on him, full body weight, all because my black child had a meltdown due to autistic spectrum disorder. I'm so sorry that happened. Hopefully it did not psychologically damage your child beyond that moment. I am Sock says, I had a few I need to talk to a man experiences when I had a female boss in my previous job, even though we were all scientists. It happens, doesn't it? Yep. I was just very surprised how accommodating they were, okay? That's not helping anybody. Sue R says, Merry Xmas, everyone. Stay safe out there. Merry Christmas to you. Sue R says, we'll appreciate that you all show us what's going on. We need to know this stuff. That's correct. Fred Gunderpants says, Judea's GoFundMe is now over 20,000 thanks to you. Well done, Dr. Richie. Nope, it's thanks to you all. Well done to you. R. King 1 Garcia, this is disgusting, embarrassing, and disheartening. Twitch, Chris Ox 1919. I have heard women say they didn't vote for Hillary Clinton because a woman shouldn't be president. Yep, a lot of that was floating around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. He's back. We got Kenneth Schrupp on the show again, contributor, Young Voices, very impressive resume. Make sure you check it out when you get an opportunity. Kenneth, good to have you back on the show. How are you?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back on.
All right, we're gonna chop it up about student loan debt relief, how we pay for education overall, and maybe some interplay with the Biden administration and maybe other administrations and how they have tried to tackle this issue. I don't want to presume what you know or believe about this topic, so I will give you an opportunity to express yourself.
Of course. Well, the great problem that we have now is that tuition has been rising 8 times faster than wages, which means that people of all kinds cannot afford to go to school anymore and must rack up billions of dollars of debt. In fact, students now hold $1.5 trillion in consumer debt that can never be discharged. But this debt isn't held equally. The wealthiest 40% of Americans hold 58% of all student loans, with 56% of all that debt held by people who are getting post-bachelor's degrees, those prestigious, big pay degrees that really pay off in the long run. So when we look at the fact that 54% of American adults don't have any college degrees, it suddenly seems very unfair that those Americans who don't have the same access to college are the ones who would pay for the debt of everyone else. Now, having said that, if we're looking at student debt relief, we really need to be exploring why college has gotten so expensive in the first place. And that really is the result of the guaranteed student loan programs that have created unlimited demand for mediocre and substandard degrees that leave people in debt, and schools have no ability to have any correlation between how well their students do and how much money they get from the government.
Okay. I agree with some of that. So let me push back on some of your numbers. 54% of Americans do not have college degrees, you are correct. However, the vast majority of Americans actually have some college. And the some college still equates to debt, even if you did not obtain a degree. Training programs are included into that scenario as well. So let's talk about solutions, because I understand your point of view. You're right, all education is not equal. It never will be. You will not have equity in education curriculum. You will not have a uniformity in that aspect. What you're looking for is quality. You're always looking for quality. I'm a college professor. I think every student who takes my class, no matter what school I teach in, they will get a quality education. And I intentionally teach in institutions that are affordable, okay? I stay away from being hired in institutions that cost too much damn money. And that's just the way I live my life. Now, is it a quality education? That's the question, right? Now, with those degrees, some people choose to go into degree fields where you need a master's degree in order to really be employable in that particular field. For example, if you get an undergraduate degree in psychology and you want to be a psychologist, you have to get a graduate degree in order to work in that field full time. So people know it going into it. Let's talk about student loan forgiveness. Now, do you really think student loan forgiveness is a bad idea in the United States of America? Or is there a level of nuance to the notion of student loan debt forgiveness?
So I have an interesting plan for you.
Okay.
If we look at the endowment returns that elite institutions, or really all institutions are having, we're looking at 30% returns on multi-billion-dollar endowments, and it's all tax-free. And that money isn't going towards, that money could easily be used to pay off students' debt. Most students could be tuition-free if these schools were forced to actually use that money for their students. I envision a future where the federal government is no longer the one issuing student debt. Rather, it's the institutions that issue student loans or even offer repayment and relief by using their enormous tax-free endowments. Or
Let me tell you the problem with that. Let me tell you the problem with that. There's a top 1% issue again. You know who has massive endowment? Harvard, Yale, Princeton. As a matter of fact, they have so much endowment, their interest basically takes care of the operational cost of the institution. And you're right, it's tax-free. That's the benefit of having an endowment. And people want to be connected to legacy items. Here's the problem with your solution. It's not tailor-made to the reality and the context of institutions that don't have large endowments. For example, HBCUs do not typically have large endowments. They have a little money, but not the kind of money that some of these PWIs have, predominantly white institutions. And if you created a policy that does not have a variable for HBCUs or even minority serving institutions, then you would dry them up immediately because now you're putting a financial burden upon an institution that cannot carry the weight. Do you understand my point there?
I do.
Okay, all right, so that's the big challenge there. Now, I wanna make a practical argument here. I don't see this as a tax forgiveness plan. I want you to look at it this way. When companies are struggling, and companies, small companies in particular, or medium-sized companies, not micro companies, but medium-sized companies in particular, and large companies, when they struggle, the American government, they have opportunities to bail them out. They have tax abatement programs, they have payment options, they have things that they can maneuver in the system in order to make sure those companies stay afloat. And they get these priority loans if they have enough employees so that those employees do not get fired, right? We call that good economic policy. But when it comes to student loan forgiveness, all of a sudden we're looking at it as a social program or a handout. But the reality is, according to Bloomberg, if you actually engage in $50,000 student loan forgiveness or higher, 40% of black income, black wealth would increase overnight. 40%, 40. You know what that goes to? Three things primarily. Number one, buying houses. The reason why most millennials, 73% of millennials do not buy houses is because of their student loan debt. That increases immediately, right? Second is discretionary spending. You now will spend more in the general marketplace. And third is entrepreneurship. We have seen a direct correlation based on the data that those who no longer owe student loan debt or their student loan debt has been significantly reduced, they actually get into entrepreneurship and they create jobs for others. So why is it that we continue to make an argument that this is a social handout or a social program when the truth is it's an economic policy that would create an ecosystem that's not only self-sustaining, but revenue generating and profitable in the United States of America?
So there's two truths to address. The first is that the poorer students tend to have less student loan debt. It tends to be in the neighborhood of $10,000. Why does it need to be $50,000? It seems like a very high figure that would reward people who went to professional schools that pay them significant amounts of money. This is a bailout for the upper middle class. If we're going to have any kind of student loan forgiveness, it should be limited to those who really need it. Now, the second item is that just forgiving student loans isn't going to actually change why school is so expensive in the first place. If we look at the cost of tuition, it remained in line with inflation until 1965. That's when President Johnson created subsidized student loans at the private bank level for low and middle income individuals. We saw that they replaced their attendance at public universities with private universities, so they were spending a lot more on college while getting pretty much the same degree. And then every time that we've expanded the program, removing income requirements, letting anybody get these federal student loans, we have seen student debt and the cost of tuition skyrocket because schools have no reason not to raise their tuition through the roof. There's no reason to control costs. So simply forgiving student loans will do nothing to stop schools from screwing over their students.
Now, we got two issues here. One is the forgiveness of student loan debt. And by the way, 75% of people that owe student loan debt, they make under $125,000 a year. So you're not talking about a bunch of real wealthy people, okay? But one is the student loan debt forgiveness issue. The other side is the continuing cost of higher education. I agree with you, it costs too damn much to go to college, typically, right? But here's the reality. The reality is both of those problems need to be fixed. I wouldn't say we need to ignore this one problem of student loan debt forgiveness because we still have this other problem of massive college cost. I say we have to create a parallel system to fix both so we're not in the same boat 10, 20 years from now of once again having to have the discussion about college loan debt forgiveness. Now, you have said in your proclamation that the government is at least in part at fault here, correct?
Mostly at fault. They've created
mostly at fault.
Yeah.
Good, you agree with me. So if the government is mostly at fault, why is it that you do not want the government to mostly fix it?
Because the government is not the taxpayers. The government is at fault, the taxpayers are gonna have to carry the burden.
That's not how this works. That's not how this works. I don't want to go to war with other countries. But guess what? They use my tax dollars to do it every time, right? I don't get to say, well, listen, I agree, they shouldn't. They should spend money on domestic programs to help the American worker, help the American student, to help Americans. That's where I would like the money to go, not to kill people and blow things up. But it's amazing to me how we have unlimited money to kill people and blow things up. We have unlimited money to go to war. You've never heard someone argue before the United States Congress, it will be great to go to war with Iran, but we don't have it in the budget. Nobody talks about budget until it comes to domestic policy. Don't you find that quite ironic? That it's a fraction of the cost of our Department of Justice or our Department of Defense, a fraction of the cost that would be an incubator for the economy of America if we actually engage in a thoughtful program, not only to forgive this college debt, which by the way, you admit government's fault, mostly the government's fault, that we engage in a thoughtful remedy for that college debt forgiveness and a thoughtful remedy to make sure that we lower the price of overall college.
Well, if you wanted a pair program where you're giving out limited student loan forgiveness to those making only under median American household income who have low amounts of debt, and you paired that with some program to say have tuition be bundled in with your future earnings based on your degree. For example, have you heard of the Purdue Maker Boilermaker program, the University of Purdue?
Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You don't have to pay anything for tuition, and in return, based on the median salary or earnings for a few years, you owe them a portion of your earnings. So if you study a very high income field, you might only owe 10% of your earnings. If you're studying in a low income field, you owe a higher percentage, but you won't have any debt.
I want to tell you about a move with HBCUs because we're realizing now, I'm an HBCU professor. We're realizing now that the government is not going to do what they keep promising us they will do. And we need HBCUs for multiple reasons, not only cultural, academic, but for scholars. I mean, you're talking about black scholars in the United States of America, historical and modern. They got trained somewhere at an HBCU. We have a vice president of the United States who got her law degree from an HBCU, and the list goes on and on. So Clark Atlanta University, I got my second doctorate from Clark Atlanta University. The president, his name is Dr. French. Dr. French decided to forgive all debt to those who had graduated and still owed the institution. That was a big move. But he realized that a lot of individuals who still owe the school, They cannot get jobs. You know why? Because when you're old school, you can't get your transcript. You can't get the official copy. When you're old school, you can't transfer to a graduate program and try to get certified in a particular field, especially in therapeutic arts, right? So he said, we're going to forgive this because we want to make sure that we have a strong alumni and that alumni will contribute back to the institution. Morris Brown College, another college, one of the most affordable HBCUs in the United States of America. It only costs $4,000 to go there per semester. That's the equivalent of basically a state school, right? And actually lower than some state schools. Well, that was by intention. However, most colleges are not at that place to do those things, or most HBCUs definitely are not. Those are the one-offs, brother. So I get it in theory, and some in practice, because some are able to do it and live, slim on the margins. But for the institutions that are not, there has to be an effective government remedy when we all agree that the government created the problem.
But I think that institutions have plenty of money to deal with the problem. Let's look at UC Berkeley, for example. They spend $25 million a year in salaries for their Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That could pay for the tuition of 2,000 low-income students. And I think that would do far more to improve diversity in the school than paying these staffers. The money is around. We can make the difference with the money we already have within the school system.
Man, you're talking about pennies compared to millions, brother. We're talking about systemic solutions that will only come through massive policy transition. If we don't have a policy directive, yes, some institutions will do good, some will not. Some institutions will fail. And it has nothing to do with their curriculum or the quality of education they provide. And I think that has to be part of the narrative or part of the conversation. Do you disagree?
I agree. That's why schools should be the ones responsible for issuing debt or determining how tuition is tied to the quality of their education.
Let me tell you one point that I would like to make, and you may agree with me.
Sure.
Everybody won't go to college. Everybody shouldn't go to college. That's real.
I agree.
All right. Training programs, tech programs, etc. People do very well with those also, and I support a number of them in the Atlanta metropolitan area. But I do find it ironic that the American government has a program to give you, I think it's roughly $122,000 to go to college. It's somewhere around there, your maximum. They'll give you over 100 grand to go to college, but they won't give you money to be an entrepreneur coming out the gate, right? So they don't have funds allocated for that for you, but they have funds allocated for you to go to college and get this massive debt. Once again, I'm back to the government. The government has an issue with how they created this program. Your solution, in my opinion, punishes colleges who are doing right by the students, because the only colleges who do not have the massive endowment or the massive budget are the colleges who are not overcharging for their degrees. And if you take away the program that allows students who typically do not have access to capital, like me, I did not have access to capital, first generational college student. I needed those opportunities in the marketplace available to me through the federal government in order to get educated. I needed that. If you took that away, the colleges that were around me would not have had the resources to school me.
Obviously, there could be a transition period where they wouldn't totally be phased out, but in the long run, we do have to recognize that universal student loans are responsible for the tuition increases. If we made them means tested, tuition would rise at a far lower rate, and you would still have expanded access for families like yours. You don't need to have upper middle class families with gross income over $250,000 taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans for their kids to go to a second tier liberal arts college.
Yeah, so yeah. We're back to colleges cost too much money. We do not agree. We do not disagree on that point at all. All right, we agree to that point 100%. But as I said before, I don't see this as a problem here and a problem there. I see this as a hand in glove. We have to fix what the government did by helping co-create massive debt, while at the same time reducing the cost of higher education. And part of that very high cost, brother, is the reality of how we do accreditation in the United States, because accreditation does not come by way of the government, which I believe it should. I think to keep costs low, I think the government should be in the business of accrediting institutions. But instead, they let private companies do it. Well, guess what? The institution has to pay these private companies a lot of money every year or every 2 years to do what's called an analysis of their ability to continue to be accredited, right? That's money, that's a lot of money. that goes through that scenario, because the government has refused to get into that business, which the government has the opportunity to offer it at a lower rate. But guess what? Every other industrialized nation does it that way. The UK and everyone else, they get into the direct business of accrediting institutions so that institutions don't have to pay private companies massive amounts of money to do so.
But again, that's a few $1 million a year per institution. As again, you're talking about pennies as well.
Man,
I would say,
listen, when you calculate how much that costs, when all colleges have to do it, that's billions, brother. That's billions of dollars.
Let me tell you my problem with public accreditation. I would see a future where, depending on who's in control of government, you're going to have schools authorized to be able to teach and give out credentials based on whether or not they're in line with whatever the current elected government approves of.
But that's already here. Thankfully, it has not happened, at least to the degree that you're talking. It almost happened under Trump, where Trump's education secretary approved some schools that never should have been approved. But remember, the current system says whoever or whatever company, accrediting body, the Department of Education approves, that accrediting body is a legitimate accreditor. So you already have the politics involved, brother, is my point.
But they tend not to lapse out. If you made it more conditional on a more yearly basis, you would have a much larger variation in what's allowed to be taught and not allowed to be taught based on politics. I think it's okay to have very conservative campuses. I think it's okay to have very liberal campuses.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen to the degree that you're saying, because the politics are already involved in it anyway. And we saw a blunder with the Trump administration and the Secretary of Education, where you had Argosy University and other institutions literally went bankrupt overnight, closed down. But when you actually looked at if they should have been offering degrees, probably not. All right, brother, it's always fun having you on the show, man. We actually agree on a lot of things, we disagree on some.
Thank you very much for having me on again. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.